Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel and today I'm going to be finally doing my top 10 reads of 2025. So yeah, I want to get this done and dusted and out of the way before we get too far into 2026, and I have completely forgotten all of 2025 as it slides into the, black hole that is my memory. So I want to get through this list. I read a total of 77 books in 2025, which is, sure, that's a number. That is a number of books. I consider the number of books I read in a year to be morally neutral. If I read 5 books in a year, fine. If I read 100 books in a year, fine. It really doesn't matter. But just so you're aware, these 10 were pulled from a list of 77. And I do have a couple of rules that I follow. So first of all, these are all first-time reads for me in 2025. So I did not include any books that were rereads, of which there were several that I did in 2025. I also am only talking about, basically it's 10 books and also 10 authors, all right? I'm not repeating any authors on this list. Otherwise, I could have done 3 Robin Hobb books on this list, and there are not 3 Robin Hobb books on this list. I gave her 1 slot. I gave her 1 slot only in order to give, breath and voice to some other authors as well. So those are kind of my rules, is they're all first-time reads in 2025, and there are no repeat authors. So that having been said, I will say this also is, I guess I'm trying a ranked list this time. I've said in previous videos that I really suck at ranking things, especially books that are often very different from each other. It's like comparing apples and oranges to me, but I do like a ranked list. I think they're kind of fun to, to argue about, in a lighthearted kind of way. So I'm attempting it this time. Can I explain exactly why my number 7 book is, number 7 and my number 4 book is my number 4 book? Probably not. And tomorrow, a lot of these rankings would probably be different depending on my mood. But I will say my top 2 books are pretty much my top 2 books pretty solidly, and that would probably stay the same. But everything else in this list, honestly, could be pretty interchangeable. So all that having been said, let's get into my top 10 reads of 2025 and what I thought of them. So coming in at a very arbitrary number 10 on my list is The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. This is a novella. It is her first solo novella. She previously co-wrote This Is How You Lose the Time War with Max Gladstone, which I also read and very much enjoyed. The River Has Roots is a beautiful, lyrical fairy tale about sisters, about the power of familial connections, about the ways in which the truth can enlighten even the darkest corners of the human psyche. And I really just thoroughly enjoy El-Mohtar's prose. She is a poet by profession. She writes poetry, and so her prose takes on a gorgeous, lyrical, dreamlike quality that I find entrancing. And I just sunk into this. I read it physically, but I imagine it would be very, very good to sort of read this while also listening to the audiobook. I feel like the full experience of this book is probably immersion reading, where you're listening to the audiobook and also reading the book physically, because the physical book has illustrations. But there are also songs in the book, and my understanding is that the audiobook is they're sung. So it seems like it would be the full experience of this book is that immersion experience. But yeah, I thought it was just beautiful and powerful, and it spoke to me as a sister. And it's a great, if you're into the fairy tale kind of thing, then this is a very, very good book for that. And then number 9 on my list is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. Maybe a controversial choice. I know R.F. Kuang is kind of divisive in like Booktube circles, but I really like Kuang's prose. I really like what she's doing. I like her project, and I love a catabasis. Catabasis is just the Greek word for a journey to the underworld, right? And she puts a really fresh twist on that concept with this book. I really love, frankly, the very messed up premise of this book, right? The premise of this book is 2 grad students literally go to hell in order to retrieve the soul of their asshole academic advisor so that he can like write their letters of recommendation, right? It's a very messed up premise. And these 2 characters are very messed up characters who find themselves in hell and find each other in some interesting ways. And the mythology and literary traditions that Kuang is drawing from in her depiction of hell, I think, is very good and interesting. The world building is great. But yeah, mostly it's the characters that draw me into this. The characters are amazingly well written, deeply flawed, and yet I find myself rooting for them through the whole thing. So yeah, Kuang continues to be one of my favorite writers working today, and Catabasis is a great book. Number 8 on my list is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This is, in many ways, a very difficult book to read. It's very searing and painful. There are layers upon layers of self-loathing that the main character is sort of embedded in, and the ways in which he thinks about and lashes out at other people because of that very deep self-loathing is often quite harsh and quite difficult to read. This is the story of a queer man in Paris in the 1950s. And our main character is sort of deeply in the closet and deeply in deep self-denial about his own queerness, even as he embarks on a love affair with another man, Giovanni. And sitting inside his head is not a comfortable thing. It is not a comfortable thing, and James Baldwin doesn't want it to be comfortable. He's not trying to make it feel comfortable, because it is not comfortable, right? Being a queer man in the 1950s is not a comfortable experience. And that's what this book conveys pretty thoroughly. This book is about love, it's about death, it's about the closet and the ways in which being forced into the closet can just sort of eat away at your soul. And yeah, it was brilliant. It's hard to say that I loved this book, because again, not a particularly pleasant reading experience, but definitely a significant one, an important one. So that's Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. Coming in at number 7 on my list is another read that is often quite uncomfortable, and that's Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This book is uncomfortable in a different way, largely because it is ostensibly a dystopia set in a near-future America where violent convicts are allowed to fight in these gladiatorial battles to the death in front of a huge national audience on television. And yet it feels very close to home. And Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah really consistently drives home how close to home this is, by including a lot of real statistics about America's prison system and the American justice system and how messed up it is. The prison industrial complex is real, and it is pervasive, and it is a societal rot. And this book very adequately describes that in great detail. The characters are not good people, but they also, but if you read this book thinking that they deserve the things that they are forced to go through, then you are reading it wrong, in my opinion. So that, and that it can be difficult, I think, to hold those two things in your head simultaneously, that there are people in the world who do very bad things, and yet those people are still people and still perhaps deserve to be treated as human beings, despite the fact that they may have done horrible things to other people. That's a very difficult thing to think and to believe, because we are very encouraged in our society to think of them as monsters, to think of them, if we think of them at all, to just believe that they deserve whatever they get and not worry about it. But it is so easy for anybody to fall into this horrific system that grinds you down and eats you, chews you up and spits you out and turns you into something that is often less than human. And that is the point of Chain Gang All-Stars. And that it's a very effective book at driving that point home. The let's see, we're at number 6 now. Number 6. I put Circe by Madeline Miller. This is a wonderful work of fiction. Again, Madeline Miller's prose is absolutely incredible. I really love, in particular about this story, is the somewhat more limited scope that it has. Obviously, much of this book takes place on Circe's island, to which she has been exiled. Most of the book takes place in this one spot. And it is purely from her perspective. She's telling us her own story in her own words, and I really appreciate that about this book. It's very effective. It makes Circe very human while still retaining somewhat of her divine origins. And when it comes to its very satisfying conclusion, you really fully understand at a fundamental level why Circe's doing this, because we've been with her through this entire journey. We completely understand the decisions that she's making in the conclusion of this book, and it's just very well-rounded. It's a very satisfying narrative, and a very fascinating female character with a lot of great depth and complexity. So yeah, that's Circe by Madeline Miller. At number 5 on my list is my favorite nonfiction read of the year, and that is Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney. I went into this book wanting and expecting to learn a little bit about some of the women authors who inspired Jane Austen and who influenced Jane Austen, and possibly to come out with maybe a reading list of some of those women authors. That did happen, absolutely, but I got much, much more out of this book. That's the great thing about a really, really great nonfiction book, is that you get a lot more out of it than what you expect, and that is true of Jane Austen's Bookshelf. What I got from this book was, among other things, a really interesting discussion about rare book dealing, because Rebecca Romney is a rare book dealer by profession, and she talks a fair amount about that in this book. So I learned a lot of things about the rare book market and how that works that I never thought I would ever know before, and they're very interesting. There's also a very interesting discussion about the Western canon itself and how that canon has been built up and shaped and changed over time, and how new authors are coming into the canon, and sometimes old authors are being discarded from the canon for various reasons, and what those reasons may be. that's a very fascinating discussion that I always enjoy. There's also even some memoir aspects of this book, which, I don't necessarily like to read very many straight memoirs. Uh, I'm not really a big memoir person, but I do appreciate when a writer puts themselves into their work and talks about how they are interacting with their research topic and how it is affecting their life and their history with that. And Rebecca Romney does that very astutely in this book, and it's very relatable. I found it. I also got out of this book the you know what it really inspired in me was this feeling of wanting to do more reading projects, right? Because that's what ultimately this is for Rebecca Romney, right? It's a reading project that she undertakes because she really likes Jane Austen and she wants to learn more about the people who influenced her, especially the women authors who influenced her, because we know she did read a lot of women authors of, mostly of the mid to late 18th century. And Rebecca Romney wanted to familiarize herself with those authors because she wants to make those connections. And yeah, that's a great reading project. And Rebecca Romney also really encourages her readers to do similar things, right? You may not be doing exactly this, right? I may not be going into these specific writers that she talks about. I probably will try to eventually read some of them. But just the idea of finding this thing you like and following some of those connections and creating a project for yourself based on that has really encouraged me in my reading life. So that's why this book is on my list. And also it's just really fun and well written. Number 4, we're getting into the top few. Number 4 on my list is The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This book is amazing. I cannot say enough about it. This was my first Stephen Graham Jones book, and this was very much right up my alley. It has multiple timelines. We're examining real historical events from the perspective of different people involved in them and researching them. We are looking at things like intergenerational trauma, and it's all through the lens of a vampire narrative, which is great. 2025 was truly the year of the non-traditional vampire narrative, and I'm here for it. Between this and Sinners, I'm here for it. And this book just, the ending just left me kind of reeling in the best way. So yeah, I just really, really loved this book. And I really enjoyed all the characters in it. And Stephen Graham Jones's writing is excellent. I really appreciated the fact that, the different perspectives and the different layers of storytelling were written in often very different styles, right? Stephen Graham Jones is so excellent at doing that and putting you into the styles of the people who are telling their stories that it was just, I was riveted from the first page. Number 3 on my list is The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This in some ways is structurally quite similar to The Buffalo Hunter Hunter. We have multiple timelines, multiple POV characters situated in multiple time periods, and they're all, we're discussing real historical, to some extent, some real historical injustices that are happening. And it's all done through the lens of, in this case, witchcraft, right? Or the modern, or notions about witches and folklore around witches. And yeah, I loved it. I really loved all of our main characters. I really loved, there's a kind of mystery aspect to at least one of the timelines. There's a lot of discussion about female agency and female autonomy and what that means, and a lot of discussion about, wealth inequality and how that affects people. That it just excellent. And Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing continues to be really excellent as well. I like her writing quite a bit. I really, really enjoyed Mexican Gothic as well. I think this one, I like even better than Mexican Gothic, which I didn't think was possible because I really liked Mexican Gothic. Like, that was also a 5-star read for me. But yeah, this is great. I love it when she's in a historical register. I really, really like her historical writing. And now we are in my top 2 books of the year. Number 2, for me this year, was Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. I could have easily put the entire Tawny Man trilogy on this list. I really, really loved the entire Tawny Man trilogy from start to finish. I do think Golden Fool is the standout for me because of reasons that I can't explain without spoiling it. Sorry. But I just love Robin Hobb's writing, and especially her character work. Her characters are so good. They're so complex. They're so multifaceted, and you really do get to sit with them for a long time and really get to understand them on a very deep level, especially Fitz, obviously, who's our main POV character. But also the Fool, like, we get so many new insights into the Fool in this trilogy that is just, it is mind-boggling. I love the Fool. The Fool is probably my favorite character in the entire realm of the Elderlings. And yeah, this Golden Fool in particular just really showcases why the Fool is such a great character. And so, yeah, that's why this is my number 2 book of the year, because it's just perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes. And my number 1 read of 2025 was The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I'm not sure that I have a whole lot more to say about this book that I haven't already said. I've been raving about this book since I read it in the summer. And yeah, I just, look at all these, I can't, like, that's what was like reading this book. I was like, oh my God, I have to mark that. Oh, I have to mark that. Oh, I have to mark that. This book is incredible. And this is another situation where I could have also put East of Eden on here, because I did read East of Eden and that was also a fantastic experience. But I do think The Grapes of Wrath edges out East of Eden for me, just because it's just a little bit more along my areas of interest. Again, it's very much about wealth and equality in this country. It's a Depression era story. It's about family. It's about poverty. It's about the injustice of poverty in this country, and how difficult it is to get out of poverty once you're in it. And unfortunately, it's still incredibly relevant today, and it speaks to so many of my concerns and beliefs and understandings about the world, that I just feel like I'm really on the same wavelength as John Steinbeck. So yeah, that's The Grapes of Wrath. Masterpiece? Yeah, I would say so. And that's why it's my number 1 book of the year, my number 1 read of 2025. So yeah, that's my top 10. A little bit, I feel like, of an eclectic mix, but I like that. I like an eclectic mix of books. I try to read an eclectic mix of books, and I feel like my top 10 list this year does a pretty good job of reflecting my overall taste and where I'm at in my sort of reading life and what I like. So, yeah, that's what I got. Did you read any of these books? Did you like them? Do you agree with my rankings? What was your favorite book of the year? What was your favorite read of 2025? Let me know in the comments. Like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.